What's up, guys? About 17 minutes to go before I have to clock in back from lunch. But I wanted to come on here because I was thinking about talking about this yesterday, but I ended up talking about the whole, Vince McMahon situation where where basically he says he knows more, he knows what we want, but more than we do, and how that's more true to life now, or more truer every day. But the reason I really wanted to do this video as well is due to the fact that with the announcement this past week or this past Monday that Deep Generation X is going into the Hall of Fame this year as a group, as a entity, as a unit, and we're talking every incarnation from the original trio minus Ravishing Rick Rude, which I guess there's a reason for that. I don't know. To the second incarnation, which included Road Dogg, Billy Gunn, and X-Pac. DX's Hall of Fame induction does prove one thing. Hold on for a sec. Sorry about that. But like I said, DX's Hall of Fame induction this year does prove one thing, because part of the group that's getting part of the entirety, and we're talking in combination of all groups. Part of the introduction for DX, part of that group that's being inducted of DX, I should say, is China. That's right, Lauren, China is being inducted into the Hall of Fame as part of DX. Now, true, it would be nice for China to get inducted individually, and that'd be great. But right now, this is probably the best scenario you're going to get for China. I mean, think about it. Critics can't say really anything of a group. Same thing that if there was any controversy with Barry Windham or Tully Blanchard or Arn Anderson or what have you, or the Four Horsemen, there's nothing they can really say about them being inducted because they're being inducted as part of the group. So DX being inducted this past Monday, sent shockwaves. I mean, well, not necessarily shockwaves, but shockwaves because of the fact that, like I said, part of that group of DX is being, or one of the members of DX is being inducted with them is China, which a lot of people didn't think was possible. Were hoping for, but didn't think was really possible due to her controversial past after WWE. But yeah, China is going into the Hall of Fame this year as part of DX. Now, the reason I bring this up is it opens the door. You see, originally, unless they still plan to do this, originally the Hart Foundation as just a tag team, just Bret, the Anvil, and Jimmy Hart were going to go in to the Hall of Fame. Hart's already in the Hall of Fame. Both Harts, that is, Jimmy and Bret, not related though, are both part of the Hall of Fame. They're both Hall of Famers already. But even, and again, like I said, even though the Hall of Famers, this would be the first induction. This would be the induction of their tag team. However, maybe they're holding off on that. You see, by inducting DX as an entire entity, this opens the door for maybe WWE to induct another entity that has a long-lasting legacy in WWE, and that's the 1997 Hart Foundation Faction. think about that. They may have not lasted as long as DX, but they had an, but within the short time they were in WWE in 1997. Within their short time, the Hart Foundation as a unit, as a group, left the mark. And when I think about DX going in, and the fact that part of this DX Hall of Fame induction is the fact that China, which a lot of people, like I said, not a lot of people thought would happen, is going to be going in as part of this. This, to me, opens the door for WWE, and maybe WWE sees this as well as an opportunity, that it opens the door to where maybe this year they can also induct the Hart Foundation as a faction, not just a tag team. They can induct the Hart Foundation faction as a whole, if not induct the entire legacy of the Hart Foundation from the tag team to the faction. How it evolved from being a tag team to a faction. They could do that. I mean, that's basically what they're doing with DX. Instead of instead of inducting, I should say, just Shawn, China, and Triple H, the founding members of the original DX, they're inducting the entire group. They're inducting the entire unit, both incarnations at once. See what I'm saying? So if they can do that with DX, there's no doubt they should do that with the Hart Foundation as a whole, as both the tag team Hart Foundation and the faction Hart Foundation as in one introduction, just like they're doing here with the two different incarnations of DX. Now, like I said, when I say that this opens the door due to the fact that China, because of her affiliation with DX, her membership as part of DX is going in as well. This basically tells WWE and tells the fans that they can get Owen Hart into the Hall of Fame, and there's nothing Martha Hart could do about it. Hear me out. You see, Owen Hart in 1997 was part of the Hart Foundation faction. So why not use the opportunity you got right here with DX to apply that to the Hart Foundation and do the same thing, and then, like I said, as a whole, take both incarnations of the Hart Foundation and induct the Hart Foundation and induct them at the same time. Because if WWE does that, there's nothing Martha Hart can really do, because her husband was part of the Hall of Fame. I mean, part of the Hart Foundation, I should say. He was part of the group. He was part of the unit. So there's nothing she could really say or do about it, because it's not an individual induction. Hold on for a second. Sorry about that. But like I said, it's not a individual induction. I mean, WWE found a way by inducting DX as an entity, as a huge entity, taking both, like I say, incarnations of DX and basically inducting them as one entity, as one group into the Hall of Fame. They found a way to work around the whole, how do we get China into the Hall of Fame without stirring up controversy? Oh, let's put her in as part of DX. That's what they're doing. They found a way around it. And that's the same could be said for Owen Hart. They could find a way around the whole, how do we get Owen Hart into the Hall of Fame without, any kind of legal issues or whatever Martha Hart would plan to bring down on them. this would be one way of doing it. This would be one way of doing it by inducting the entire Hart Foundation as one entity. The tag team that it originated from, and the group it became in 1997. And by doing so, they work around the situation that's holding them back from properly giving Owen Hart his due. And like I said, Martha Hart legally couldn't do anything because it's not an individual induction. It's an induction of an entire faction that even within its short time, you know, basically left a huge mark on the wrestling business, and if not on the WWE. And I'm hoping that the people in charge of the Hall of Fame selections, whether it's Vince McMahon, whether you like him or you don't, Triple H, Stephanie, Shane, whoever's in charge, basically says, look, we got China in because she was part of DX, so we got her in as part of this DX induction. Maybe we could do the same for Owen. And again, there's nothing against, and again, legally, there would be nothing really wrong with that because, like I said, it's not an individual induction. It wouldn't really cause any trouble whatsoever because Owen wouldn't be inducted individually. He'd be inducted as part of a unit, as part of a group. Same thing with China, like I said. It's the same thing, like I said, with China. If WWE decided to induct her individually, it probably wouldn't be a problem, but it would cause a lot of controversy because of what she had done in the past outside of WWE. So, with that said, with DX going into the Hall of Fame this year, it opens up the door for Owen Hart to go in as well as part of the Hart Foundation faction. Again, legally, there would be nothing Martha could really do because it's not an individual induction. It's an induction as part of a faction, part of a unit. And I think Martha knows that right now. I think she knows that. I think she realizes that somehow, some way, WWE is going to find a way to get Owen into the Hall of Fame, and there's nothing really she could do about it. Why? Why would there be nothing she could do about it? Because it's not like I said, not an individual induction. It's not an individual induction. He would be going in as part of a group. It's like when you graduate from college or from high school and you're part of a class. You're not the thing is, you're not graduating by yourself individually. Oh, it's all about you kind of deal. You're graduating as part of a group, as part of one unit, as one entity. That's what you're doing. You're graduating as part of one unit, one entity. And if anybody had any problem with you graduating individually by yourself, then yeah, they would have a reasoning to want to go after the school or the college that allowed you to graduate. But if you're graduating as part of one group, along with all your other classmates, fellow classmates and all that, there's nothing they could really say or do. Nothing really they could say or do. And that there, as crazy as an example as that is, basically shows, it basically kind of proves that WWE has the stroke, if you will, to put Owen Hart in the Hall of Fame, not individually, but as part of a faction. And the Hart Foundation faction would be that faction. Heck, Owen could end up going in twice as part of a faction. part of the Hart Foundation, and part of the nation domination. Because you can't tell me WWE ain't thinking about doing that either down the line. They'll take the entire nation, any incarnation they have of them, induct them as one whole unit. And again, the same thing will be said for the Hart Foundation. You could, instead of doing the tag team, instead of inducting the original tag team known as the Hart Foundation, they can take both incarnations, the tag team and the faction, and induct them all at once. And again, that would be WWE's way of getting around the whole how do we get Owen into the Hall of Fame deal, because they just did it now with DX going into the Hall of Fame, and that basically helps them get around the whole how do we get China into the Hall of Fame without stirring up controversy. Well, they found a way. Put her in with DX because she was a member. So to me, DX going in, long overdue and everything, opens the door for Owen Hart to go into the Hall of Fame as part of a faction, if not two factions, in the Hart Foundation faction, or overall entity known as the Hart Foundation, and possibly the Nation of Domination. Like I said, it opens the door for that to happen. And I think WWE knows that, and that's why they did the whole DX thing first, instead of just the Hart Foundation, because they wanted to see if they could possibly get away with it, possibly see if they can make it work, and they did. Now, all they have to do is probably test it out next on the Hart Foundation as a whole and go from there. So, yeah, in my opinion, this opens the door, as crazy as it sounds, for Owen Hart to get inducted into the Hall of Fame as part of the Hart Foundation faction, if not the Hart Foundation as a whole. That includes both incarnations, tag team and faction. But let me know what you guys think. What do you think about the possibility that DX going in and China, because she was part of DX, going in at the same time? What do you think about the fact that it opens the door for Owen now, for Owen Hart to probably go in, but as part of the Hart Foundation entity, but part of the entity and unit overall of the Hart Foundation, and maybe even the Nation of Domination? Let me know what you guys think down below. I got to get back into work now, but thank you all for watching live. Really appreciate it, and I will talk to y'all later. But let me know what you guys think down below. Comments are welcome.